Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, President of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, I have a new friend with me, and Patricia, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Well, my name is Patricia Smith Griffin. Currently, I am making the podcast, The Legacy of Charity's Children. It is the story of my family that dates back to early Ohio settlers in 1802, coming from Louisville, Kentucky area to the Miami Valley, that is Dayton, Ohio. And our family is still there in the Miami Valley. We are 12 generations. So this is the legacy of Charity's Children. Our lineage is traced through women. It is through the mothers in our family. So these were strong women who have inspiring lives that I am excited to share their stories.
Oh my gosh, 12 century, like 12 generations. And through the women, which is amazing because it's usually through the bloodline of the men. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I think what has been interesting and consistent is that the women in the family use and maintain their maiden names in their professional lives, in their civic and social organizations. So it has just been, I guess, the tradition and part of who we are to use those maiden names. The interesting fact about our family is that it seems as though in the moment, these women knew that they were doing remarkable things. And so often as we rush through our daily lives, we forget that these mundane acts that we create within our world, we forget that they are impactful. We forget that it is those little nuggets, the little things we do, the small kindnesses along the way that are our legacy and create a family brand that tells our story.
Wow. Wow. That is impressive. Impressive. And for women to keep their maiden name, that is difficult. Really difficult. Good for them. They're trailblazers.
And when I think about how many, that we're talking about a couple of centuries that these women have done this. I think there was one mother along the way that I had a little bit of trouble connecting her names because she has this very long Mary Louisa Chittenden Taylor. And so she has a lot of different names, Galloway Taylor. And so sometimes she was Mary Taylor, sometimes she was Louisa Galloway, and sometimes, so that began, but still the fact that she used her Chittenden maiden name helped me connect the dots. And so yes, it's been a fascinating journey. These are stories that have been in our family for generations. They have been, it is an oral history that is combined with a written history that is combined with family archives, letters, journals, pictures that chronicle their lives from their perspectives.
Oh my gosh, that is so impressive. So impressive. Now, I have a couple.
I stand on their shoulders, so I thank you for your kindness, but I definitely stand on their shoulders. These women were trailblazers, and in not giving away too much about our upcoming podcast, The Legacy of Charity's Children, it is exciting to hear how women, Black women, were integral in not just establishing a city, but they witnessed the growth of a state and our nation.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So I could go so many directions with this, but one, ancestry.com has nothing on what you're doing. You have like way beyond that. But also, like, so you're doing a podcast in relation to
Yes.
this as well. So is it an ongoing podcast? Is it a new podcast? Tell us a little bit about it.
The podcast premieres December 29th. It's available
Oh,
wherever you get your podcast.
all
It's
right.
called The Legacy of Charity's Children. And
Okay.
it is season one, begins December 29th, airs through March 23rd. We'll have a couple of epilogue episodes after that. However, the storytelling, the short storytelling is season one, series of 8 episodes. So we are looking forward to that premiering December 29th with our mission statement, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
Wow, that is so neat. I'm definitely going to tune in for sure.
It's exciting.
So you said it's going to be available like on all the podcast platforms, of course, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, it
cool.
is.
So all of our listeners should go check that out, whether or not they're on Apple or Spotify or whatever. Go check this out. It's going to be really, really cool. Very cool. Oh my goodness. So this is obviously what I would call labor of love.
Absolutely. I call it that too, Regina, a labor of love. Yes, I call it that too.
All yeah, absolutely. All consuming, I'm sure. Wow. So
All
what
consuming. My days are long. They begin very early in the morning and go pretty late at night. So I often call it that, a labor of
yeah,
love.
yeah, imagine that, right? So what took you down this path other than all these amazing women who stood before you? What gave you the idea to create this?
Well, I was on kind of a couple of different paths. My background is in radio broadcasting. And so when podcasting came along, I was really interested in the platform. Having always worked by that broadcast clock to be able to create a format and execute it in our own style was something that was a concept that I was excited to take on. Um, as far as telling this family story, I think it's more or less something that I knew that I would always do.
Yeah.
I was at a crossroads where I was trying to decide between this particular project and another project, which I still think is very good. And I'm hoping someday to get back to it. But I was speaking with a good friend and spiritual advisor at the time. And she said to me, is there anybody else in your family that can do this? And I stopped and I thought about it. I said, well, yeah, but they can't do what I can do
Yeah.
today.
Not as well as you can, right?
They can't create the theater of the mind, the blend of the music soundtrack with our spoken word narrative. And it was in that moment that I knew that this was something that I was doing for my mother, for my grandmother, for these great grandmothers whose names I can call. This was something that I could do for them. And it was also something that was necessary to start the Charities Children Project, our nonprofit, because these archives that we have maintained for so many generations, yes, as I say and have said, things have been lost, stolen, and strayed, but what we have been able to maintain is our family story and archives that our listeners, our podcast listeners, and those who go to our website as our episodes are released, they will be able to see and share in some of these family archives. Many of these things have not even been seen outside of our family for generations. So I wanted to start a nonprofit that could preserve that
Mhm.
for the generations to come. Um, I am sometimes overwhelmed by the responsibility, and I never want it to be a burden because it is a privilege. There are families who have not been blessed to have this full knowledge of themselves. And I consider that a privilege. And I also consider what these women before me have done has been integral to telling the American story. And it's something that I want to share. This trove of archives has been lovingly preserved, and in its proper time and course, I am hoping to share that so that it will be a resource for African American history and heritage.
Yeah, so amazing. Such an amazing project. Oh my goodness. All right. I am going to be like on the sidelines watching it, clapping
Oh,
along.
please do. Cheer us on. Cheer us.
Yeah, well, I'm sure all the hard work pretty much is done at this point if it's airing so soon, but that's
The
amazing.
hard work for season one, I should tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is season one. We have several seasons in the making. I do believe that season two, well, I thought season two was written and ready to go. But the wonderful thing about the listeners, they will be able, this is an evolving project. This is
Right.
something that is, that they will be experiencing with us in real time. So I'm excited that even as we think we have come to the close of season one, oh boy, we've got a historian on the project who is really good at her work. And so every time we think that we have an episode resolved, we're like, okay, back to the drawing board. There's more information. So yeah.
Wow.
But
Okay.
we're ready to present, and all in due time.
Yeah.
December 29th is when the Legacy of Charity's Children, the short story podcast series premieres.
Yeah, well, we will definitely be looking for that for sure, for sure. Now, you have had a very robust career, and I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you have faced as a professional woman yourself?
Well, as a professional woman, as a Black woman in what has in my era was a male-dominated field. So
I
of
think
course,
it still is. I think
well,
it still is.
and it still is. The challenges were many. The balancing act that women have is extraordinary. What I wish I had known then that I do know now is that you can pace yourself. That the wonderful thing about being a woman is that we have many seasons and we can reinvent ourselves along the way. We can, just like in this season, as I am in my silver season, as I like to refer to it, I am taking on a project that will likely be the most encompassing of my career, meaning that everything that I've learned along the way, any talents that I have been able to gain or embellish upon along the way, everything that I have learned has been poured into this project. When I started the Women's Radio Network back in 1999, I think it was, we were dedicated to telling women's stories, the trials and triumphs of survival. And in doing that, I think that even set me up for what I'm doing now. The format that I used in that show, and some of the shows that we did on the Women's Radio Network is a format that I have adopted for this podcast as well. And once again, in doing the podcasting and in this season, being able to take the good and the bad of every experience, what I learned from every experience. And then in this chapter of my life, begin to utilize those things that I've learned along the way to what I hope will be something that will be a lasting legacy.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it will be a legacy for you, for sure, for sure. So again, so impressed.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you have many projects that are going to, because you're going to have multiple seasons.
Mhm.
But if you think way down the road, what would your vision of retirement be? Something tells me it's not going to be sitting in a rocker chair on a porch.
Well, my vision of retirement. Well, you would be wrong in saying that, Regina, because
Oh,
that
okay.
is my vision of
Is
retirement.
it awesome?
Is a porch at the end of County Road 819, and with grandbabies on my lap,
Oh,
and
yeah.
telling them the story of charity, telling them the story of Walker Smith, telling them who they are so that the story continues and that the legacy never leaves.
Oh,
So yes, that is my vision of retirement, is exactly what you described.
that's so funny because you just seem like you have so much energy and you'd be like, nope, nope, got this project, got that project. But
Yeah,
that is a
yeah,
beautiful project. Sitting
that's
with grandbabies, telling them the story so they take it further along.
yes, but in the same
Beautiful.
way that I learned these stories, in the same way that one of the fascinating things about doing this project is that in this day and age, with the advent of the internet, I have been able to confirm many of these oral stories that I had heard for so many years, and it's quite thrilling to see the documentation of that, to read these personal letters and correlate the personal letters with what was happening in history at the time, and be able to intersect the reflection of one thing, of how one thing impacted another. So this has been, I think, this in this era is probably the first time a family member could have acquired all of that information at the touch of their fingertips. I mean, we would have literally had to get in our cars and go to the various courthouses and around the county and in various states in order to track down some of this information. But this age that I am living in, I feel that it is a privilege, which also catapults me to the obligation portion of needing to get this done and to
Yeah.
get it.
Wow. Well, I'm just honored to even hear you talk about it. It's just a project that not many people would take on. So I applaud you for all that you're doing.
It is, I'm continuing the work of my mother, Emma Johnson Smith. I am continuing the work of her very first cousin, her very close first cousin, Betty Jane Duggar Ferguson. And they were the keepers of our family treasures. And so I am continuing the work that they do. We have a picture in our family that has been, and I've got pictures of other family members who have been lecturing about our family history in regard to the picture. And so I think I am now the fourth generation to that will lecture and talk about that picture. So I take not a lot of credit for this. I think that I am doing in my generation what is expected, what was expected of me. And I'm also, something else I'm also asked as we talk about community archiving is, how do you know who to entrust with these things? And what if the family as a whole is not interested? And it's important to understand is that it only takes one.
Mm,
Continue to tell the stories, continue to pass pictures, a bowl, a lamp, anything that tells the family story. Continue to pass that along, but understand that you don't need an audience. you need one who has the spark, who has the willingness, the time and the energy and the drive to keep the legacy alive.
Well, you are definitely that spark, that person. Can't imagine anyone else doing what you're doing for your family and your
I have
legacy.
wind beneath my wings. My wonderful cousins in Dayton, Ohio. My cousin Sharon there. I talk about cousin Sharon in our second episode of the podcast, the way she lovingly cares and transports these archives to me. My sister Carolyn, who is our family oral history consultant, cousin Julian and cousin Leslie Ann. There are just too many to mention. And they are truly the wind beneath my wings. Our wonderful historian, Sherry Gowdy, the producer of The Legacy of Charity's Children, Tamara Calvert. And then what I think will be an absolute treat for our listeners is our music soundtrack, which is most of them are original music scores by my son, Jared Griffin. And Jared is our award-winning musician. And so we are quite excited that he had time for us for this project.
That's so nice.
I think
That's
that
so
is
cool.
going to be a wonderful addition that listeners will enjoy, to have that music that is original and motivates the story and transports us in time and place, an aspect of creating that theater of the mind.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this sounds so exciting. So, in addition to the podcast, are there, do you have a website or anywhere for people to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Yes, charitiieschildren.org is our website, and we invite you to go there and find out more about the Charities Children Project, our archival trust, our educational initiative, where we do lectures, and of course, the Legacy of Charities Children. The promo, the series trailer is on the website, so take a listen.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that. Well, thank you, Patricia, so much for being here with me today.
Thank
It
you,
is
Regina.
absolutely an honor to have you, and I'm so excited to, listen to the podcast.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, absolutely. And thank everyone else for joining us. And please go visit Patricia's website. Absolutely, absolutely. I can't even speak, but absolutely go listen to the podcast. I am definitely listening to that. And, just to remember again, call to action, take some pride in your family. Go listen to that podcast. Think about what you could do for your family. To honor them and honor your legacy for your family, like Patricia's doing for hers. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. Thank you for joining us. You can find us at forgewealth.com, and we are on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Forge Wealth, and LinkedIn, Regina McCann-Hess. Have a great day.